All right. We're live here on twitch.tv/Perry Von Vicious. It is Tuesday night, Perry. We're back in the workshop again. It's a workshop week. We're going to be gaming next week, but we're in the workshop for now. I'm going to go ahead and throw us onto the bench top so we can get rolling here. And I'm going to go ahead and start the Instagram live stream at the same time here. All right, everybody. Welcome to the live. We are down here in the workshop. Living the dream as a grown dork in this world, making toys. Right now, I'm modeling modeling good behavior, putting on my PPE. I got a good set of nitrile gloves. These are important for working with resin prints, as latex tends to react with most UV resins. Hey, Nicobeans made it. That's right. Welcome to Gnome Improvements. And I'm also throwing on a dust mask because I'm going to be. I learned my lesson the hard way last week. The first round of sanding on these, I wasn't thinking about it. Didn't put a mask on, and I've been suffering ever since. See the MR Rain 23. Hey everyone. Hey, glad you could be here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and throw this on. I'm going to sound a little muffled for a bit, but it's only through as long as we're sanding. I've got some other stuff in case this goes quickly. You'll see here I've got a good pile of these figures for your homie, the Nomi, Gabby Forza. And these are the last of the run. There's a whole pile on the bench behind me, but these need cleanup. So that's what we're going to be doing first here. I'm going to clear them out of this little flat. Move it over here and out of the way because that's where I'm going to put them as they're ready to move on to their next process. The tools I'll be using here, nice and simple, real easy, are going to be, I've got two different grades of sandpaper, just plain old sandpaper, and I've got an X-Acto blade. So essentially what happens with these, the resin printing process leaves a few different artifacts on the figures. The first is the base of the feet is where there are some supports that connect there, and it makes them kind of rounded and weird so that they won't want to stand necessarily, but that's easily fixed with some sanding. There's a weird little anomaly that happens on the one leg here, and a little cleanup to do on the fists, and as well as under the arms there's an area where there's some supports that connect. So we're going to be cleaning that up on all these figures and getting them ready for final curing. Right now, these are only as cured as they come when they are first out of the machine. If I took my gloves off and I really pressed like a thumb into these, you could see where the thumbnail pressed in. They're not fully cured, they're just mostly cured. Once they're good and clean, once everything's real nice on them, I'm going to put them through one more wash with isopropyl alcohol. And then they can go in the curing box. And once they've run through the curing box, there's a UV light. It runs for 10 minutes, and there's a turntable. Then they're solid. They're done. They're good to go. But for now, we got to start this process because we got a good pile to get through here. Go ahead and move the sandpaper out of the way till we need it. So the first thing I'm doing is, you know what? I do have. I also have a little pair of plastic flush cutters here. These are good for cleaning these weird little anomalies that happen under the fists. These are just weird places where the support material had connected previously, and it leaves just a little nubbin there. And I suppose that could be left there, and you could explain it away as like, oh, it's a thumb, they're making a fist, but it doesn't look quite right to me. So I try to get it off there, get that joint looking clean. All right, let's have a look here. Yeah, I think on this one we're going to need to do a little scraping on this weird little leg joint anomaly. It doesn't take much because right now we're just trying to get the shape nice and smooth. You know, when Gabby gets these, she's painting them herself. And when you paint a 3D printed figure, it covers a multitude of sins, so to speak. It'll cover a lot of little weird anomalies, things that don't look quite right because all of a sudden the colors tell the story. But I do like to get this as close as I can before I pass it along. And a lot of this is just knocking down places where supports were attached. All right. The nice part is, as the printing process went on and I got to know the model a little bit better and how it would behave with the machines, I was able to compensate for any shortcomings in the initial model. And that means that I was able to make them all print with less cleanup needed. Some of the early ones needed a great deal of work, and in fact there were some that failed so badly that I full on just chucked them and reprinted them. I'm using a fairly fine grit sandpaper here. When I get to the feet, I use a slightly more coarse sandpaper because I need to remove the material a little faster. But on these parts, you know, I want to knock that stuff down, but I don't want to mess up any of the fine detail on here. My resin printers print in a 4K resolution, which is really nice. So I'd hate to lose any of the careful detail worked into the model there. And that's why you'll see me going kind of slow on these, taking my time. All right. All right. How are we looking here? We're looking pretty good. And again, these will look dusty as I go, but all that's going to wash off when these go through the ultrasonic cleaner again. I have an ultrasonic cleaner full of isopropyl alcohol, and that is used to clean off any errant, uncured resin that I don't want on the model. And in this case, it'll also take away all the little dust that I've sanded up on here. Okay. The last step for each of these, we'll be bringing in this slightly more coarse sandpaper. And I have to sand these feet down here so that they are actually flat, not rounded, not at a weird angle, because we need this figure to stand upright. You'll notice I go in like a figure-8 pattern. That's so that I'm always kind of hitting from a different direction. That keeps you from having one side more slanted than the other, or you know, any kind of unevenness on the bottoms there. All right, that's getting pretty close. All right, let's take a look. Almost. That's some great ASMR, isn't it? That's the noise the people tuned in for. There we go. And now we're upright. So there we go. Gabby number 1 from this batch, ready to go. On to the next. It's going to be the same. It's going to be a little repetitive tonight. But that's, you know, when you're making large batches of the same item, that's going to be the case. We're just going to clean up those hands a little bit. That looks good. Then we're going to take a look at that leg joint. Try to get that as smooth as we can with the side of the blade. I'm just kind of pulling back. I'm not scraping the way you would think. I'm kind of just pulling the blade over this this little anomaly that happens here. See if that'll show up on the Twitch cam. Which again, when it's actually being painted, when Gabby has these and she's painting them, it's the kind of thing you probably wouldn't even notice. But, you know, I want this to be really nice. I want it to come out well. All right. Let's see. We're gonna. You'll also notice that I tend to move the blade away from myself. You only need to lose a battle to a blade once or twice before you learn that lesson for good. Yeah, but Bobby says of the ASMR sanding, it sounds awful. Hey, I don't disagree. Trust me, if I wasn't live streaming this, I'd have my my noise canceling headphones on, just completely ignoring the sounds. Oh, I hadn't noticed before. Rye's in the chat. Good to see you, Rye. I know you and Nikki always enjoy the crafting streams. I appreciate that. Personally, I never know what anyone's tuning in for. So, right, that's looking good. Good. All right. Yeah, the little marks from the supports really remove pretty quickly. Nikki, I'm glad to be of service. Again, I'm going slow with the sanding here because hard to put material back on, real easy to remove more than you want. All right. That looks good. Yep. Happy with that. All right. We're starting to get some dust pile up. So everyone's favorite friend here, the cat vacuum. I'm gonna see if it's actually. Yeah. Hey, look at that. Cat vacuum. All right, that's got to be. Yeah, there we go. So we can even. Yeah, about there. That's the stance we want. All right, 2 down. We are moving right along. I'm gonna try to pile all the dust in one place off camera here so the cat can clean it up. For those just tuning in, I don't actually mean a cat cleaning up plastic. I have a cat vacuum. Just want to make that clear. My cats are not allowed anywhere near the workshop. They live upstairs where it's warm. I'm down here with 2 space heaters blowing at me. I am still freezing. Oh, Bobby Gilbert says, I got to yell at Joey because he got you interested in another expensive hobby. What expensive hobby did he get you interested in, Bobby? I want to know. Because some expensive hobbies are really worth pursuing. Take it from me. I'm sitting here with 4 3D printers running behind me, and you know, I've got all my figure collecting, my pro wrestling, etc., etc. All right, we got a little artifact on the back here from printing. I'm going to see if it'll just pop off. Yeah, good. Okay, we'll hit that with some sanding too. All right, and this one needs a little bit more heavy scraping on the arms, but the leg is okay. A rumble slam. Oh, right, that was the board game he was talking about, right? I'm so not like a part of the gaming world that I never know that I'm always surprised to find out that that stuff is like an expensive hobby. All right, that looks pretty good. I might have to bring that other space heater closer. It is freezing down here. All right, that's looking a darn sight better. It needs just a little bit more attention. All right. So what's everyone up to while they're watching me do this? I'm interested to know. Like, I know Nickabeans is likely doing some crafting. Bobby's dropping a phone on his face, but probably up to something else. Bobby says, "I'm not going to lie, these being clear is pretty cool." And they're only kind of clear, right? Like they're only sort of transparent. One thing that's really neat about them is once they're totally done, once they've been cured and everything, they stay kind of cloudy like that. But if you hit them with a thin layer of like a gloss clear coat, it fills in all the little scratches and creases and turns it back translucent again. I've actually done that for some previous toys that I had. Oh, we got one little piece of support material still on here. Let's see. Nickabean says, embroidering a sunflower for Rye's 80th birthday. and then corrects and says, Rye's grandma, and Rye says, I'm old. Rye, you don't look a day over 79. What? Outstanding, you guys. You're all doing, everybody's doing great. It's my 80th birthday. Congratulations. You did it. You did it. All right. Got that. That's all clean. That's good. All right. We just got to get this one standing. Yeah. Grandma Rye indeed. I promise I will not call you Grandma Rye when I see you next. Oh, hey, Cody made it. Currently I have NXT on in the background, and now I'm brainstorming ideas for what to make next week with your own 3D printer. Oh! Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. Can call you Grandma if I bring a card and flowers. I mean, it's a perfect way to celebrate an 80th birthday. No, I mean, the proper grandma treatment is that everyone forgets to call, right? Like, isn't that sort of the stereotype? All right, we standing? We're standing. All right. We're going to call that one ready. Back over to our 1980s rock star pile. All right. How's this one looking? Looking all right. Not bad, not bad. All right, that's good. Yeah, I'll be honest. Rye, I wouldn't get in a fight with Rye. I've seen her when the shit hits the fans, or when the fans hit the ring, I should say. When we were at RPM Fest, Rye was doing photography for Grind when the fan came over the barricade. Thankfully, we were all a bit closer to that fan, so we got to the fan first. But I saw the look in Rye's eye. I wouldn't have messed with her. She was she was ready to start taking people out. Yeah, that's right. I'll tell you who proved to be a little bit of a maniac in that situation was cameraman Paul, little cameraman Paul. Boy, he sunk in a chokehold on that fan, and he was ready to end that kid. Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't mess with Paul for sure. That's right, Bouncer Rye. Should have got him with the large skeleton, just a whack with the skeleton arm. What an embarrassing way to end up getting taken out of a situation like that. Someone just whacks you with a plastic skeleton arm. I mean, I've always said when I die, I'd like to go via the result of an attack from some kind of Halloween decoration. Bobby Gilbert, that was the one cocaine joke first stream. It took you a minute to respond to it though. That was a little while. I mean, I'm essentially scraping white powder around on stream, so there had to be at least one joke made. Although I'll say this particular powder gets kicked up in the air, and the other stream I inhaled enough of it that was airborne that I'm still kind of. I mean, I assume I actually had a cold, but I thought it was just breathing the stuff in. I've been a little under the weather for a bit. In fact, last night I wound up skipping out on lifting post stream, and today I didn't even do cardio. I was out of it for the day, so I've just been back to recovery mode, unfortunately. Not thrilled about it. That's true. It's hard to keep your dignity after you're taken out by a skeleton arm. Not impossible, but it's hard. Thankfully, I gave up dignity years ago. Decades, in fact. All right. it's looking pretty good. When I do that little bit of scraping, it knocks down a lot of the high points, and then getting over it with the sander really just takes away the marks from the scrapes. So it doesn't take a ton to get it looking pretty good, because this is a pretty fine-grained sandpaper, so it's not removing a ton of material. I mean, this is, what's this say? It's a 400 grit, which is pretty high. Not like the stuff I'm using on the feet. The stuff I'm using on the feet, practically gravel glued to a piece of construction paper. This stuff is, yeah, 120 grit. That's some gnarly stuff. All right. Ta-da! You know, one of the interesting things about doing this kind of work in your own workshop is I should, you know, I know you know, I have a pretty fair price on the work I do, but it's not inexpensive to have a great big pile of custom design figures made for yourself. So the money I'm making from this order, in any other situation, I would probably be thinking like, oh yeah, that's money for part of a Disney trip, or that's money for, you know, something I've been looking to get. But my brain always just goes to, what do I need in the shop? Like, what would make this job that I'm doing right now easier? And can this job that I'm doing cover the cost of that? For example, the first 2 or 3 rounds of Perry merch, I just considered all that money paying off the printers. And it did. I've paid off the printers a few times over just selling my own merch. This gig, I kind of looked at it and I was like, you know, could really use a disc sander. That would really make sanding those feet down, getting them nice and square, really a trivial task, a fast task. It wouldn't be doing all this by hand. It would just be, you know, sliding it in against a disc and just zzz, zzz, until it's nice and flat. That would be so great. And I do believe that this job would certainly pay for one of those. But, you know, I kind of have to weigh it out with a few other things. I did just spend all the money to build an enclosure for the printers, so in part I'm paying that off. But since I did it myself, it was not that expensive to do. I want to say, all told, if I don't count my time in materials, it might have been $80 to build. On the Twitch cam, they can sort of see it directly over that shoulder, the enclosure back there that my printers all live in now. So $80 for an enclosure that is insulating all 4 of my printers and keeping them warm, that has power run to it, it's lit so that I can see what I'm doing. Not bad. Like, pretty good. So it's possible that with the money from this, I may be able to say, like, yep, time to get a disc sander. Bobby says he wants an unpainted Perry figure. Well, when I'm all done with these, I am going to be finishing the updated Perry figure and then starting some test prints. But I have a few other projects also in the hopper. For my merch table, I have, I don't want to give everything away because not everything's done deals, but I have some larger scale projects that I want to work on with some of the companies I know that are willing to invest in their merch, or have the means to invest in their merch. And yeah, that's something I'm looking to looking to start talking to some of these places about, all right, time for our celebrity friend again, Vacuum Cat coming in. Man, this thing rules. All right, let's we've done our scraping, so let's get our little. And again, if you've not seen one of the sanding streams before, these pieces come in a huge pack from the Dollar Tree, something like 50, 60 sheets of varying degrees for $1.25. Bobby Gilbert wants to know how old is this? Are you asking about the vacuum? The vacuum was new as of fall 2023. My wife bought it while brand new while I was in Japan. Bobby wants to know if I'm doing a giveaway. Probably not. Got to keep the lights on. Right. Yeah, these are coming along really good. I'm happy with this. We're making good progress. We're about halfway through the pile, give or take. So tomorrow I'll be cycling these through isopropyl alcohol bath and then through runs in the curing box. All right, that looks good. Now we just got to get her standing. Yeah, fantastic. We're gonna find an angle where the lighting on this is good for Twitch. Maybe it's here. I don't know. We're gonna figure that out. I definitely need to invest in a slightly nicer webcam that focuses a bit better. Right now, the webcam's a little bit too much like me, where it lacks focus. All right. Come in and clean up these hands. Okay. All right. Good. Yeah, looking forward to my trip up to Maine this weekend for Limitless, dropping these figures off with Gabby, and spending some time with Johnny Torres. It actually sounds like the incredibly talented and delightful Sam Laterna will be in the car riding up with us. So that'll make for a cool vlog episode for those that tune into the vlog over on YouTube. Probably an episode you won't want to miss. I can't wait for the day Trash with a Stash asks you to make him. Wait, who's Trash with the Stash? I don't know who that is. Can't always trust me to know your code names for people. Oh, Bam Sullivan. I love Bam Sullivan. Uh-oh, Joey Nails caught up on the chat. Yeah, it's because he's broke, Joey Nails. It's because he's broke. And he knows you're a wealthy man, Joey Nails. Joey Nails, you watching from the road? I know you're traveling home. Yeah, we can do a little bit. There we go. All right. Looking good. Well, you're all the witnesses. When the time comes, you can let Gabby know you watched all the hard work I put into getting these just right. Although I don't doubt for a second that she'll appreciate them anyway. She's been very excited about this project since we started, and she's enjoyed every bit of the process along the way. We've been in close contact, sending her updates of how everything looks. Yeah, we're looking. I'm Gabby. I'm the gnome. I'm your homie, the Nomie. Rah. All right, this powder is piled up high enough. We need to get the cat in here to clean it up. My lovely assistant. I may need to get an actual dust buster. I know Dust Buster anymore. Fine, maybe I'll Dust Buster. I knew that joke was coming. I was ready to make that joke myself. Well, we love you being excited about the possibilities with these. All right, let's see. Every one of these, I got to look it over carefully and make sure I didn't miss any support material that needs to come off. Because when you're first removing supports from these, they are still kind of dripping with uncured resin. You know, they're kind of they're kind of globby and they're so translucent it can be real easy to miss parts. So it's cool to see as the process goes on, you get a little bit more clarity as you wash them off with the isopropyl alcohol and then it dries. You can see a little bit better on the model, and it also lets me know what areas need cleaning, and so that everything looks good. Because that is important when you're doing client work for other people. I've said it on some previous streams. If I was doing this and it was just for me, like if this was just to go on my shelf, I'd probably take about a third as much care on this, because I'm okay with stuff looking a certain way in my collection. I made it. I know what the shortcomings are. But something that someone else is paying me to make, something that I've offered to make for someone, something that when they show it to others, they're going to say, oh yeah, Perry made this. Suddenly it's a lot more important to me how it looks. Your work, when you're making physical objects or when you're performing Joey Nails, your work, the body of work you put out that people can witness and see, that is your reputation, that is your legacy, that is people's opinion of you will be informed by those things. We used to have a saying, this is where it relates to wrestling and performance. We used to have a saying, because there's a lot of nice guys in wrestling who are not very good at wrestling, but they are still nice guys. There was a saying I used to hear a lot when someone would be asked about someone like that. Oh, what do you think of insert wrestler name here? And the response would go, oh, great guy, great guy. And then you'd say, well, yeah, but what about his wrestling? And you'd go, he's a great guy, real nice guy. All right. That's looking good. Get in here with the fine sandpaper and hit those areas. Just smooth them over. Let's see, John Orrell says, what you making? These are an order of figures that I designed and 3D printed for Gabby Forza, your homie the Nomi. She's if you're not familiar, she's a power lifter pro wrestler with a gnome character. And this is the result of that. It's wearing her exact ring gear, but with a gnome hat and a very elven face. So I'm just finishing doing a lot of the cleaning on this model here. A lot of little artifacts from the 3D printing process. And then they'll get a final cleaning, a final curing with the UV light. And they will go off to Gabby, who is going to be painting them herself before they hit the merch tables. Yeah, I'm really pleased with how they turned out. All right. So that's all the upper cleanup. Now we just need it to stand upright. Joey Nails says, Perry, am I just a real nice guy at the moment? At the moment, Joey Nails, but I've also only seen you wrestle like twice, so you're so early on I wouldn't even worry about it. Bam! Standing. That's what we're after. All right. Looks good. Yeah, I definitely need to. Maybe that's what I'll do with some of the leftover proceeds from this, is get a dustbuster going. Corey says, my dad's in the other room wondering what the heck that sound is. Ha! That's funny. Yeah, I could see that. Now, if I was still living with my parents, my dad and I were always working on projects like this. My whole childhood, we were building stuff, making models, making toys, altering toys. It's so baked into who I am and how I spend my time, like those kinds of hobbies, it's just, it was just such a big part of it. You know, we did so many cool projects. One, I think I've maybe talked about it on stream before, but one that always comes to mind that my dad insists we might still have in the garage somewhere was it was for science class, and it was a concept for a Mars habitat that we made a little diorama. And it was my first real experience with building a set instead of an object. You know, I'd built models of cars and trucks and people. I'd altered action figures to look certain ways, but it was my first time making like scenery in a setting. And he taught me so many cool tricks. You know, to make the sand look like Mars sand rather than just painting it, we wanted it to really look like rusty sand, because that's what gives Mars its red color. So we took a bunch of sand, we put it in a huge freezer bag with some water and some steel wool and some salt. And we let it get all rusty in the sun for 4 or 5 days. Brought it in, took the steel wool out, drained it out, dried it out. It was exactly Martian red. It was really cool. And then we laid the sand down how we wanted it, and he taught me the trick where you take you can take white glue. People these days probably use Mod Podge more likely, but you take some white glue, and you take some water and isopropyl alcohol, and you water it way down, and then you just spray it all over the sand, really saturating the top of the sand. And as the isopropyl alcohol and the water evaporate away, that glue just solidifies your surface so that your sand isn't moving all around. It becomes one solid surface, but it looks dry. Really cool. But yeah, that was also my first real experience with like true kit bashing, you know, where you're altering other objects to make your new objects. We were taking, you know, parts of old Matchbox cars and parts of little McDonald's toys and things, and you know, holding a lighter to a piece of plastic so it becomes malleable. You can bend and reshape it. And we were making little Mars roving vehicles, and using the clear film canisters that film used to come in as the revolving airlock door for the front of the habitat. Really cool. And did that for a class, and then it went in our garage and kind of, you know, fell apart and rotted and wasn't in such great shape. And then a number of years later, I needed to do it again for the class. And yeah, we took the same one out and basically like kind of rebuilt it, but better. I absolutely love that he did a science project with you in the process. Oh, he was always doing stuff like that. We used to do model rockets both as a hobby and for science fairs. And he would do things like teach us, we wanted to make custom nose cones, you know, the very top of your rocket. And he taught us that the way you would do that is to use a lathe. You would take a hunk of balsa wood, chuck it into a lathe, and then you could turn the shape you wanted so that it was cylindrical and symmetrical. But we didn't have a lathe. So instead, my dad would take that piece of balsa wood, and we would drill a small hole in the back of it, put in, glue in a wooden dowel so it was sticking out the back, and we would chuck it into a drill. Put the drill in a vise, a small clamp on the trigger of the drill, and the drill would spin, and then you could sit there with your tool while the piece spun on the end of the drill, and it was a homemade lathe. Now, that's not a totally safe way to do that, but it was just balsa wood, so it wasn't going to hurt anybody. You know, if it went wrong, we were going to be okay. But he would teach us stuff like that all the time, how to solve engineering problems, and it was never posed in the way of, well, let me show you how that's done. It was, well, how do you think we should do it? And he would sort of guide us to the answer. He'd let us find it on our own. Nicobene says, the only medium I don't have tools for yet are blacksmithing and pottery. Oh, my dad is amazing. I actually, Instagram won't see this, but I can show the folks on Twitch. I keep one of the drafting drawings from his job when I was a kid. He was a machine designer. That's a draft design that he did for Montague Machine. And I keep that on the wall down here, and it's pretty cool because the date on it is about 2 weeks before I was born. I found that in a roll of posters and things at my parents' house, and asked my dad if I could keep it, just like 2-3 years ago, and he said, "Yeah, sure, go for it." So ran out and bought a frame. But I keep it where I can see it, right next to me while I'm working in the shop. Remind me who the OG is. I will say he's a little embarrassed that it's there whenever he comes over and hangs out in the shop, because he does come hang in the shop. He's still puttering, still being a great big nerd, and he is very happy to see me doing a lot of this sort of engineering, toy making stuff, because that's he's a mechanical engineer himself, so this is the kind of stuff he really enjoys. He was very pleased with the enclosure I built back there. I did that one without him because he was a bit busy. I have let's see. Nicobeans says, "Oh wow, frame painting from his printing press. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, that's awesome." Oh, my Aunt Tara and my dad's sister's actually in the chat over on the Instagram. You know what? Because she's there, I will turn the camera to show. I'm gonna bring it over and show. That's the Montague Machine drawing that I keep up on the wall here in the workshop. Hi, Aunt Taryn. That's cool. Got family in the stream. All right. Back to the back to the table here. All right. Yeah, my dad was actually just over earlier today. We've got a nice garage with a nice flat floor, and he had to fix up some stuff on his car, and came over and made use of our garage for a couple hours. All right, and not quite as flat as I'd like. There we go. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how these have turned out. This was started as a digital sculpt, and then I've been running them off on my small 3D print farm, and got to get them all cleaned up and ready to deliver, because I'm seeing the client at a show this Saturday. I know she's been very thrilled with them thus far. I've been sending update pictures. She does have one. I made like a test version of it months and months ago, and just gifted it to her and said, "Hey, here's how it came out. Let me know when you're ready to roll on ordering more." All right, there we go. Over in the Twitch chat, they say, "Hi, Auntie Monster Truck." I gotta say, I may be the only monster truck person in my entire family. On my mom's side, I have her oldest brother, my Uncle Tony, raced stock cars since he was a teenager. He is now in his mid-70s and still races stock cars. So he's probably the closest I have to another monster truck enthusiast in the family. Also, my Aunt Taryn, who was in the chat over there, she's from she's from the side of the family that if you met them, you wouldn't necessarily know we were related. They're the Irish side of the family, so they are not 6'3" monsters like I am. But they are all performers, and very talented ones at that. Performers, authors, teachers. Honestly, like, it's a family that I'm very proud to be a part of. All right, how are we looking here? Pretty close. Hey, the Stoner Brothers tuned in. Hey, what's up, guys? Out here making toys for the wrestlers on the East Coast. Aunt Taryn says they're very proud of me too. Thank you, Aunt Taryn. I appreciate that. If there was ever a family that would enjoy the weird eccentric I've become, it is our family. All right, so that's all that cleaned up. Now we just got to get this thing standing. Just delightful sound effects for everyone. The Stoner Bros say, I like toys. Yeah, this is a figure I made for your homie, the Nobi, Gabby Forza from the Create a Pro Wrestling School. And she put in a nice size order of them, so got to get them all cleaned up and ready for delivery this weekend. All right, let's see. There we go. All right, another one down. Yeah, I'm looking forward to end of my working day tomorrow. I should have finished these up by then. One of the joys of being self-employed is that this is in fact my work. You're looking at it. But yeah, tomorrow I'll be able to finish cleaning these in their isopropyl alcohol bath. Get all that dust off them, run them through the curing box, the UV curing box, and box them up and have them ready to go for this weekend. I'm excited to see how Gabby ends up painting them. Let's see, Bobby Gilbert says she went to the same wrestling school as MJF and Chris Statlander. She did indeed. MJF, Chris Statlander, and a ton of other incredible talents, all out of the Create a Pro school. Bobby Orlando, Bryce Donovan, Dante Drago, Nick Robles. So many incredible talents there. Bear Bronson is a graduate of the Create a Pro school. They've turned out some incredible talents, really. I've said for a long time right now. Let's see. Real Stoner Bros say, how much for some Stoner Bros toys? You know what? Shoot me a message and we will talk, because it's I don't charge too much. It depends on how much work needs to be done. If you need them posable, if they're going to be particularly large, because that takes more material. These are very much to scale with like the old Hasbros, for example. And I have made some Hasbro style ones that are posable. I had a Perry figure, a Rip Bison figure. Actually, just off screen here, I have a prototype I'm working on for Delmi Exo. That's gonna be pretty cool when that's ready to go. I'm gonna hop back over to benchtop view on the Twitch cam. That is correct. Bear Bronson is, in fact, her husband. But, then there's things to consider, like if you want them painted beforehand, if you want to paint them yourself, there's different prices for all that. The painting is pretty involved. I like to think I do a pretty good job. I recently printed and painted my own replica of the old Playmates Toxic Crusader figure from the early '90s, and I'm very pleased with how that turned out. I still have his entire slew of weapons that need to be painted, so he's not up on my shelf just yet. Yeah, I'm psyched to see the Stoner Brothers in the chat. They're two of the good ones, two of the cuzzies from back out west. I've taken many a Riz bomb from the cuzzies. That's right. Nikki has the posable Perry in rep. They're falling off the dresser all the time because they're haunted. Whoa. Stoner Bros say we've been in 2 trauma films the last few years. Yo, that rules. That's so sick. Hey, we're gonna talk because I wanna know how I get booked for that. I wanna be an extra in a trauma film. All right, that's looking pretty good. Yeah, we can get that a little bit better. We're almost to needing a fresh piece of sandpaper because I've put this one through its paces. But with only 2 figures left, I might be able to get away with just sticking with the same one. Oh, like the '90s WCW Galoob ones. Yeah, that's real similar to what we're looking at here. It's a real similar scale, and because this one's not posable or anything, just kind of set. That's not terribly different from those Galoobs. I love those Galoobs. There was a time before I grew my hair back long again that I had the old Arn figure, and I'd made a mold of it, and I was going to start casting Perry figures because I kind of looked exactly the same hairstyle, same beard, similar build. And then the world shut down and I grew my hair out, and that figure was no longer how I looked. What can you do, you know? I was actually supposed to come out and work with you guys before the world shut down. I was supposed to come out with Rip. We were going to do Hood Slam, and then catastrophe struck. Let's see, Stoner Brothers says, "Oh, you got the UK Steiner ones. Yo, yeah, those are sick figures." It's actually sometime soon. I'm going to be doing some streams. Like I made that replica Toxie. I'm going to be because they're I don't feel like going out and buying the old Hasbros. But I have files where I can print my own copies of Earthquake and Typhoon and Bam Bam Bigelow. So those are on my list because I want those, and then I'll be on stream painting them. And then sometime soon I need to make Krang's android body, that big figure. I really want to do that one. I want to print the parts for that and just have my own. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Standing up good, nice and clean. That's what we're looking for. Solid. All right, down to the last 2 that need a cleaning here, and then we gotta dust all this off. I might be able to get to some painting before the stream's over. I've printed the parts to have a couple of my old Perry monster trucks, and they need to get painted up before I do the final assembly. All right, gotta do some scraping here. About got that down where it needs to be. Bobby says that Delmy figure looked sick. Yeah, it needs a little bit of extra work. There's a few mechanical issues it has, just because of the way the print turns out. When I go to put the pieces together, there's kind of a weird fit. So I have to address that before it's a done deal. But with any luck, by sometime in the spring, Delmy should have those figures on her merch table. Well, who knows? You know, she's a big star, signed over on MLW. She might have them making a figure for her before I get to it. Yeah, good. See, Taryn asks, what's the biggest challenge with the sculpting? Honestly, because it's a digital sculpt, it's definitely learning the software. I use Blender, which is you know, sort of industry standard for 3D modeling, whether it's for physical models like this, or if it's for 3D animation or video games. They're all kind of rooted in Blender, and it is a beast of a piece of software, and it takes a lot of, there's a steep learning curve. And I'm still learning all the time. I'm self-taught because, for those who don't know, I went to college for English, which you can see I'm clearly making great use of my degree here. But yeah, steep learning curve, I think, is the toughest part. Other than that, everything else is pretty easy. Once you have kind of an idea, I've spent my whole life playing with toys, so knowing how the shapes should look and how everything should the pieces should interact with each other, that's all very much second nature to me. And whenever I'm unsure of something, there's an infinite amount of reference photos on the internet. And I also have a pretty sizable toy collection that I can look at and reference. I try to keep a few within reach of my desk so that I can pull pieces down, and I've got some digital micrometers. I can take measurements and see how pieces interact. I'd say the most frustrating part, though, is just how long it can take. You get excited about a project, and you want to have something to show for it right away, but you really got to take your time and not rush it. Otherwise, you end up going back and having to fix everything. All right, that's looking good. We're sanded. All right, good. Joey Nail says, did I miss Perry's wife? Why would my wife be on the stream? She's never on the stream. She's got her own stuff to do. She's got her own social media projects and brands to manage. She's too busy to deal with my stuff. All right, let's see. Not quite. There we go. That's sturdy. Good. Get that on the old Twitch cam. All right, and we're on the last one for cleanup here. Whew. I don't know if I should say how many toys were in the order, or maybe I have already, but it's multiple dozen. Multiple dozen. So I've been at this for days, and I'm just now over a pretty gnarly cold, so I'll be glad when this is over, because somehow the experience of cleaning these toys and the experience of that cold have melded into one in my brain, which makes me really not look forward to doing this work. All right, let's see here. This one little leg seam that always needs a bit of attention. The interesting thing with this also, the physical process, beyond the sculpting that you do on the computer, the physical process, I have two resin printers that I use for printing figures, because they print a much higher level of detail. And the two printers, while very similar, are not the same. You know, there are two different sizes. They're the same manufacturer and ostensibly the same item, just one is bigger than the other. One of these I like to run one print at a time, and the other one I have two that come off at a time. So I need Takashima asks if this is Aso-san. Close, almost. This is Gabby Forza, your homie the Nomi, but very close, almost Aso-san. For those who don't know, Aso-san is an incredible wrestler from Kyushu Pro, where I wrestle in Japan. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, looks a great deal like Gabby Forza. He wears a mask, and he has a big pointy hat. He is named after Mount Aso in Fukuoka, on the island of Kyushu. And his mask has that big pointy part on top that's meant to look like a mountain. All right, let's see here. We got to get these parts. I don't want to miss any steps here. I get caught up in storytelling. But to those who've known me long enough, that's probably not surprising. All right. That's about knocked down enough there. I'm going to be glad when I've got this dust all cleaned up off of here, I can take my dust mask off. I'm going to sound so crisp, not having to shout through a dust mask. All right. And that's a wrap on the X-Acto blade. Sheathe that in its protective case. Set it out of the way. It's a wrap on the old flush cutters. Let's see, Terrence says, what is the most challenging figure I've done? Boy, honestly, it wasn't even a figure I can actually show. I make my own Perry Von Vicious monster trucks. And while some parts are complicated, like this little body with me coming out the top, or this little truck body where I'm hanging out the window, those parts are complicated. The most complicated part is actually the chassis, because I print the axles and the wheels already inside the chassis. They're completely captive in there. And that was a neat little feat of engineering to come up with. And it actually, when it comes off of my 3D printer, it's already ready to roll. It comes off just ready to be a toy, which is pretty cool. All right, I'm going to scoot that back out of the way. I may end up doing some painting on those in a bit. I've sold so many of those that I haven't had them on the merch table in a long time. Instead, I've printed a few of them that are just for me, that are just going to be my display in my office as part of my canon of toys that I've made. But making the pieces that roll inside of themselves, pre-made axles that are already inside of a printed chassis, all as one print. That's something I'm really proud of having made, and something my dad really appreciated as a mechanical engineer. Oh, I can see the Stoner Bros. I'm getting alerts. They're sharing stuff with me over on the Bird app to let me know how I can get some extra work on a trauma film. That would be pretty cool. All right. Yeah, that's looking good. All right. And if we can get this thing standing, that's going to be the last of the gnome figures to fix up. Stoner Bros, thank you. I appreciate it. I saw the alerts coming up. Yeah, not sturdy enough. That's those sound effects. Really great. Yeah, there we go. All right. And that is our pile of gnomies. I've got another flat with about twice as many over on the workbench, but they're all finished now. All right, I got to clean some dust off of here, and then we're gonna switch over to doing some painting, because I got some little parts that got to get painted up here. So we're gonna make this transition here real quick. Pile all the gnomes together, and we gotta clean up this work surface, because I don't want all this dust getting into the paint. All right. I am real glad I'm wearing a dust mask right now, because it is everywhere. So lose those gloves because they are gnarly. Whew. And I'm gonna, let's see. Yeah, here's the one. Bring over a flat full of that stuff. And I'm gonna grab some paints. On Terran asks, what kind of paint? Well, it's funny you should ask. While I was wrestling in Japan, my wife was kind enough to organize my entire drawer of craft paints. These are just acrylic craft paints. And I can tell you that fully 2/3 of these came from Aunt Beth. She was cleaning out, getting rid of them when she was moving, and I jumped at the opportunity. All right, let's see. Probably gonna need I know I need a red. I'm gonna need a pink. I'm gonna need an orange. Probably the yellow. Just glancing over my shoulder at the things I have to paint here. All right, I think that might be it for now. But because these are for me specifically in my collection. Well, who Stoner Brothers say if I live closer, it'd be easy to make happen. I can find my way there. All right. So because these are for my collection, I tend to go with just whatever's the least expensive, both in terms of there it is, the dust mask comes off. Woo. I tend to go with whatever's the least expensive and what I think is good enough, because for me these are all just displays. The Toxic Crusader, for example, is all just Dollar Tree craft paint, Oh, speak of the devil, I happened to mention Aunt Beth, and she tuned in over on Instagram. I was mentioning that a lot of my paints came from Aunt Beth, and showed off the whole drawer displaying them. But yeah, this Toxie replica, all just craft store paint. And I have a number of things I need to paint for him still. I have his shield here. I've got his bandolier belt, of course, his mop, and a pile of his little toxic grenades that all need to be painted. And before I do those, I'm going to be painting up the little truck bodies for my two Perry Von Vicious monster trucks here. The Perry's Dream Car and the original standard square body monster truck. Those go with these little chassis that I printed here. I have two different kinds of chassis. They're, of course, I actually think I have the example right here. My two aunts that are currently in the chat are going to love this. When I was a little kid, you would have seen me playing with these things, these little Matchbox superchargers, all the time, constantly. I do have the full collection now as a grown-up. And you can tell when I put them next to each other that I modeled my toys after the line that I played with as a kid. And of course, living out the fantasy fully, I'm in the truck. That's the dream. I grew up and made a toy where it's me driving the toy monster truck I had as a kid. So I'm gonna get painting these. The chassis just stay black like that, but these need some coloring. And this one's nice and easy because I don't make the little me a different color. It's all one solid color because that's how they were when I sold them at the merch table. So this is going to be pink. Just looking for that like classic sort of Barbie's dream car. I called it Perry's dream car. Made this when the Barbie movie came out. And so that's going to be pink. This one, probably going to go with like maybe a blue. And then I have some raised lettering here. I like to just dab on a little white right onto the top of that so it stands out. So we're gonna work on those. All right. So we're gonna do the pink first. That means I need some Dollar Tree cups. And I got this pink craft paint here. I don't think I'm going to need to go any darker than this. This kind of looks just right. When I was initially painting these, I was doing them all with my airbrush. And what's neat about these little acrylic craft paints is that you can absolutely airbrush with them. You just have to thin them out. I thin them out with a mix of isopropyl alcohol, water, and just a little bit of windshield wiper fluid. The stuff that's in the windshield wiper fluid actually works as a protecting fluid for the airbrush. It works as a lubricant for the parts inside the airbrush and helps you to clean it out a little bit better. So, all right, I have a little jar. I've been using this to clean the brushes as I've gone here. It's not going to take much because I'm going to hit a thin layer on this and then I'm going to set it behind me. I've got a little drying rack for my models sitting in front of my space heater. Joey Nails. I don't know why, but the idea of you shopping for craft supplies at Dollar Tree amuses me a lot. I didn't have to shop for that many of them. A huge portion of my paint collection was gifted to me by my Aunt Beth. So I will admit, I do go shopping for craft supplies at Dollar Tree quite a bit. My wife and I were actually just there a few days ago, and it never really fails. They've been pretty much just hits every time. All right, this is pretty clean. All right, so we're gonna dive in and start laying some paint on this. And like I said, I'm going for a pretty thin layer here. I'm not worried about getting perfect coverage. I'm thinking of this first layer almost like a primer. And truth be told, if circumstances were different, i.e., it wasn't 6 degrees outside right now, I would have hit this with a little bit of some spray paint primer And then I would probably be airbrushing it in here. But, those are all things you need really good ventilation for. And this is not the time of year for good ventilation. Yeah, I'm just looking to get a nice thin layer on here. Kind of get everything a little bit of coverage. Because paint loves to stick to paint. It doesn't always love to stick to plastic. See, Rye says, Nicka Beans and I make frequent trips to the Dollar Tree. Hey, the Dollar Tree is a great spot. I got nothing but good things to say about my experiences there. It's hit or miss. You never know what they're going to be out of, what they'll suddenly have. But, when it comes to, there are certain items that they have there that you're not going to beat a buck. I know inflation's crazy, but you're not going to beat $1.25 on it. All my brushes are Dollar Tree. All the little clamps I use throughout my shop, except for my nice woodworking clamps, those are that's a different story. But all of my little crafting clamps, those are all Dollar Tree. My sandpaper came from the Dollar Tree. Some items are kind of the same, whether you buy them nice or you buy them cheap. And if that's the case, I'm not going to break the bank on it. Yeah, I'm just trying to get kind of a messy layer on everything. I want to keep it thin because if you do big, thick, globby layers and they dry, you lose a bunch of your detail. And there is a great deal of detail here. The little Perry has a bunch of detail on his face and his hair, on his the whole sculpt of his little body there. So I want to be mindful of that and work slowly. Slow, thin layers, just letting the coverage happen as we go. In fact, I could have actually thinned this paint down a little bit before I got started here. I could have, with acrylics you can thin it out with just water. I could have done that a little, but I trust myself to take my time. Yeah, that's it's a point that I make a lot, but if you're a first-time viewer, you might not have heard it. One of the reasons I was so excited to make toys for my merch table at shows is because I realized I'd be doing it anyway. I wasn't adding any extra work to my life. When the world shut down, my wife very kindly realized I might be good at toy making. I certainly had an interest in it, but had never pursued it. And so she just bought me my first 3D printer unprovoked for Christmas when the world was shut down. And it turned out she was absolutely right. Who's going to know me better, right? And by day 3 with the 3D printer, I had designed and was printing my first monster truck toy. It was just a generic one, more or less as a test, but within a few days I was making replicas of monster trucks I'd watched on TV as a kid that never had their own toy. All right, we're going to call that a first layer of our pink. And I am going to, Taryn says, I always liked her. I always liked her too. I'm going to let her know you said that when I go back up from working in the workshop down here. But I'm going to call that a pretty good, I got a couple little spots I missed here. Call that a pretty good first layer, and I'm going to go set it in front of the space heater so that it can dry. It'll dry really quick because it's a thin layer and it is acrylic. So, all right. There we go. Toss that in our water. Yeah, Joey Nail, send me the sketch of your new design. I'm always interested to see that kind of stuff. Let's see. Nicobene says, I used to gift large bags full of Dollar Tree snacks and toys to people at Open or the wrestlers, but now when I travel, I make sure my favorite talent gets little gifts. That's true. You have. I have a number of little gifts from you and from Rye. All right. So I'm going to set that pink out of the way, keep the correct paint next to it. And we're going to start on the little truck here. When I had painted these previously, I had sort of like hot glued a popsicle stick to the bottom of it to hold it by. I'm not really going to worry about that this time. Wow, this model is really, really weird. Yeah, there's a lot of things I would change if I was redoing this again. I'm not sure if both cameras will get it, but there are some hollow parts here that made it very hard to clean all the resin out and to get a really good cure. And I can show that on this camera as well. And I would have sealed those up. But this was a design I did when I was still really new to 3D printing when I designed this. So, I'm willing to forgive my errors of the past. All right, so of course, because I am who I am, I want this to be like a Bigfoot blue. I want this to look like the truck I grew up loving and adoring, the #1 babyface good guy monster truck when I was a kid. All right, get a little in there. Actually, that's not far off. We're gonna make it just a little bit lighter, I think. I think we're gonna do that just by mixing in a lighter blue. In fact, I could go with just a white, but I think I'm gonna mix in a lighter blue and kind of creep up on the color here. They're making fun of me for being old over in the Twitch chat because I'll turn 41 in July. What can I say? I'm an old man. It's okay. I may be an old man, but how many 40-year-olds do you know that can do a backflip? Because I can. How many 40-year-olds do you know can jump in the air and throw a 2-foot drop kick? How about do a suicide dive through the ropes? A little tope con hilo. How many can do flying head scissors and hurricane ranas? How many 40-year-olds you know I can do a backflip? I'll send you a clip. Nicobene says, as the oldest person here, I think I cannot. I'm gonna say I can still pick my opponents up over my head and chuck them around with reckless abandon. And audiences full of people younger than me cheer me on when I do it. So, all right, we're just combining the two colors here, making this just a little bit lighter, just a shade lighter than the standard. I don't like to use colors right as they come out of the bottle. See, Bobby Gilbert says Asuka is 43 and she can do a drop kick. That's true. But I don't see you picking on her for being old. You ever think about that? Rye says I could throw myself around with reckless abandon. I mean, me too. That's mostly what the backflip and the tope con hilos are. It's just throwing myself around recklessly. I don't know that it's that good for me, but I do it. my Aunt Taryn and my Aunt Beth say badass and impressive, respectively. Thank you both. Impressive and foolish, certainly a bit foolish. You know what? I'm looking at the openings here, and I kind of wonder I might be able to put a popsicle stick in there to kind of hold it away from my hand while I paint it. I knew I'd have one around. Yeah, the shop's a little bit of a mess because I'm in the middle of my this run here, but not too bad. There we go. That'll do. It's got a little bit of wiggle to it. I'll just be careful. All right. And again, just like with that pink on the other model, I'm not going for like a perfect coverage here. I just want to get a layer of paint kind of on everywhere that'll be visible. Because the bottom of the truck will not be visible. That's going to be glued to the little chassis model that we made. Get some paint on little Perry here. This is a representation of me when I was in my Blue Man Group era. I still love the Blue Man Group. You know, some things never change. My absolute infatuation and adoration for novelty music as a whole has never faltered for even an instant. The only difference is now that I'm older, I don't ever feel embarrassed about it. That is one of the nice things about truly growing up. You give up on feeling embarrassed about your interests. You learn that you like what you like, and not everyone else has to like it too. Beth says, your childhood makes so much sense now. I know. Well, I grew up to be exactly who I always would have dreamt of being. I I fake fight people as a number one good guy that everyone cheers on, and I make toys. That's what I wound up doing professionally. Kind of living the dream, you know. Joey Nails wants to know why the character on the truck is blue. I'm making this to look representative of when I first sold these. When I first sold them, I did not actually paint them. They were instead of being resin prints like this, they were at the time filament prints, and so I used a rainbow filament that changed color print to print, and just let them all be kind of different colors. And because the little character model is built into the truck, he was just whatever color the truck was, and no one seemed to mind. I want to say Nickabeans might have one of these at home too, and I know no one ever minded. You know, I couldn't keep them in stock, but you know, so clearly it wasn't an issue. You know, they sold out every show. The number of these silly little trucks that are on people's shelves is kind of astounding. Even weirder, I don't have one on my shelf. That's why I'm making these ones. Get some paint down in that wheel well there. All right. And that first coat is looking good enough. I just want light coverage because we're gonna build up on this in thin coats, kind of swapping between the two trucks and letting them dry over in front of the space heater. The space heater that's taken my basement from 40 degrees to about 55 in the time I've been streaming. Wildman Congo says, I'm going to send you a message. I need a few Congo figures. Hey, please send me a message. Let's make something happen. Wildman Congo's known me since the very earliest of my time in wrestling. He was on shows with me back in 2008 when I debuted. All right. I love the work of the space heater because the Perry's Dream Car is getting nice and dry. I can handle the whole thing. Love that. All right. We're gonna swap cups. I'm gonna put a little bit more paint in here. Yep. 2008, we would have been wrestling in Rhode Island for Brutal Bob back in the day. Cutting my teeth riding around with Johnny Idol and Marshall McNeil. We had a young Sydney Bacabella on those shows with us. That was where I met Sydney. Those were different times in every conceivable way. Now again, if this was for a client, I would have gone out of my way to do some primer on here. I would have probably thinned this paint down and run it through the airbrush, so we'd have a nice consistent coverage, nice thin layers. But because it's just for me, it's going to go up on my little shelf in my office next to where I do my design work. I am A-okay with having some brush lines and some imperfections. You know, I want it to just sort of represent what the original toy looked like, as opposed to being an exact replica or even a perfected version of it, you know? This one's, it's more for me so I can look up from my desk and be able to reference things I've already made. Yeah, man, love you too, Congo, man. We had some good times back when. You know, I had a great time on those shows. Got to wrestle, for those that follow ROH these days, the great Mike Bennett was one of my first singles matches. I have a pinfall win over Mike Bennett from 2009. Yeah, that's weird to think about. And who'd have thought all these years later, you know, he'd be where he is, I'd be going back and forth to Japan doing shows. Really strange to see that we all kind of grew up and went and did things. But that's been one of the things I've really learned in wrestling over time is you know, all you really have to do to accomplish stuff is stick around. If you stick it out long enough and you're good and you're nice to people, the opportunities come. You know, and that's I went to Japan because I never quit. If I'd quit, it wouldn't have happened. So let that be a lesson to you, Joey Nails, over in the Twitch chat. You just got to keep working at it. You got to keep working at it and not give up. It's important. Yeah, this second layer is looking a lot better. Like, it's definitely going to take possibly a couple more layers. We might not be assembling these before the end of the stream. But I am happy with how this is coming along. It's also, every layer looks smoother than the last. And that's why with that very first layer, when I said I'm thinking of it like primer, it's not super important to me that it's a real clean look. That's why. I've worked with this paint enough to know kind of the ins and outs. Of course, if you're working with a more expensive paint, you know, something like a Tamiya, a Testors, something that's, you know, really meant for one and done, one pass and it's good, you might want to be a little more careful on your first coat because it may be your only coat. Yeah, I'm looking forward to post-stream here. I'm going to go upstairs and relax a bit before bed because this is going to be my last night before I kick back in fully on lifting. I had a little bit of a break from a cold, But you can't rest forever. But you do have to pick and choose when you want to push yourself. And I decided to give myself one more night, recover, and then tomorrow we're gonna kick back into gear over at my gym, which is just a couple feet from here in the basement, the old basement gym. All right, that's looking. We're looking pretty strong on that coat. It's definitely gonna take another one, but that is coming together. That's right. Bobby gets to go to Monster Jam in 2 weeks. That's really cool. I'm very excited for you. All right, we're gonna swap back to the other one because this should be all dried up now. Yeah, nice. This is looking good. Coverage is looking nice. Happy with that. Yeah, we got plenty of blue left in here. I haven't taken a single sip from my Powerade, and I am going to be feeling that post-show here. In fact, I'm going to do it right now before I continue on. Always hydrate, people. Always hydrate. It's important. If anyone wants to talk to the folks that make Powerade Zero, I would love a sponsorship. It is the only beverage I drink in a day that is not either water or black coffee, and it's only when I'm feeling dehydrated or when I'm coming off a cold, but I do really enjoy it. All right, let me get back up on the front here. I'm okay going a little heavier on this coat because this one's showing some pretty decent coverage already. Next week I'll be back doing some gaming. I've yet to make any real decisions on what I'm playing. Bobby Gilbert, you're my Monster Jam Showdown guy. Is there more DLC coming out before next week, or is there still a longer wait before any more DLC? That's right. I saw Bad News Travels Fast came out, so that's one I gotta play on there. I got to see Bad News Travels Fast in Greenfield over the summer. Came to the Franklin County Fairgrounds. That was pretty cool. Same show where I got to see the Virginia Giant for the first time, a truck from my childhood. For any who haven't seen it, you can check that vlog out over on my YouTube channel. I always vlog when I go to monster truck events, and yeah, it's always a good time. I want to share it with people, you know. It was nice. I was there as a guest for the fine folks at the Overdrive Monster Truck Tour. They hooked me up, asked me to come in and vlog the show. So love when places ask me to do that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Bad News Travels Fast is probably cause enough to do at least one Monster Jam stream. I think I can use that as a good excuse. Maybe we'll play some Beam NG. I should find some neat things to do with those throwback monster truck mods that were released on there. I got to drive them around and kind of reminisce about old school trucks and the stuff I watched growing up, but maybe there's something fun I could do with them. Or maybe Rye wants to teach me how to do the multiplayer in that game, and I can have some folks come on and we can race. I know Rye said that particular mod is a little unreliable. Yeah, boy, that coverage is looking really nice. Okay. Get a little bit more on here and over by Little Perry. There we go. Looking pretty good. Let's see if we can we get a focus on that? Yeah, look at that for Instagram. It's looking really nice. Get it up on the Twitch cam as well. Little Perry looking out the window at you. The Always On Duty pack comes out the 27th of this month. That's soon. That's like a week week and a half away. That's really soon. All right. I'm gonna hop back on to Perry's dream car here. On Beth says looks great. Thank you. All right. Yeah, we still got pink in there. All right. Find the best way to grab this here. At some point in the next couple days, I've got all the wood laid out. I've got a nice big sheet of acrylic waiting for me. I'm going to be building my custom display shelf for my office for all of my toys that I've made over the years. A very my dad style project to do. Beth says Grandma would love it. She absolutely would have. Yeah, totally. This kind of stuff is something she would have been totally into. I shudder to think what she would have been capable of with things like a 3D printer, because she made crazy stuff as it was, just by hand. If you widened her tool set to include digital things, that's kind of crazy to think about. Yeah, I'm gonna get this coat on here, and then I think we're probably gonna call it a stream at that point, because we're pushing up on about 2 hours here, which is, I try not to go too far past that. But we got all those Nomi figures cleaned up. I feel good about that. These Perry trucks have been sitting waiting for their coat of paint for a couple months now. I started them and then got sidetracked with other projects. So I feel good that we're getting there on those. I got to see some friends and family in the chats on the various platforms that I don't always see, so that's pretty cool. Shout out to Aunt Taryn and Aunt Beth for popping in. The final free DLC comes out March 13th. Do we know anything about what they're planning past that, Bobby? Like, do they have they announced? Are they doing any other big things? Because I'm real interested. Nika Beans is watching both angles. I know Joey Nails was doing that a bit earlier. He was watching from both Instagram and Twitch. If he watches the replay when it goes up on YouTube later this week, that'll be the trifecta. Yeah, the Perry's got pretty good coverage. Pretty happy with how he's looking. But again, working in thin layers here, so that's just one of the things you come to expect working with craft paints on plastic. Oftentimes, if you want nice even coverage, it takes multiple layers, and that's fine because I don't mind doing this. I find this to be pretty fun. Yeah, I wasn't even sure if I would get to this tonight. I thought I'd just be sanding the Nomi figures. All right. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to throw that in front of the heater. Okay, and we are going to call that. We're going to call that a stream. Thank you all for coming and hanging out. I will be live again next Monday and Tuesday at 9 p.m. Both on the Instagram and over on twitch.tv/Perry Von Vicious. And tell your friends there will be replays going up on my Perry Von Vicious YouTube channel. And there's plenty of cool other stuff over there. I have shorter maker videos on how I make different projects, as well as vlogs from my travels for wrestling and for monster truck events. But for now, thank you all for hanging out, and I will see you all again next week.